Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. This is a rather blustery afternoon in Colorado. At least the weather is still warm, so we're good there. Well, we're in for a very wonderful, exciting afternoon. When I first saw the shuttle was coming to Lakewood Cultural Center, my first thought was, how can I get them to maybe come over and come to our school and do a little bit of performing, a little bit of talking, a little bit of in a more informal setting to be able to get to know them better and understand their journey, and also to hear some absolutely fantastic musicians. So thank you all very, very much for being here. I'm going to just read a little bit from their website, some things that you may not know about them. I'd like you to know that before they start for us, and I'll do that first. By the way, I should introduce myself. My name is Steve Taylor. I'm Dean of the School of Music here at CCU. So, Shuffle is a modern-day ensemble that delivers the unexpected, inspiring, and energetic. New York-based chamber music ensemble Shuffle Concerts changes the rules of performance as we know it. Conceived by Shuffle's artistic director and pianist, Ellery.
Thank you.
The idea was born while he was actually working on an elliptical at the gym, which I love that idea. I love the fact that I love both that you were at the gym working out, and also that's how the idea came about. That suddenly his MP3 player jumped from a Pretender song to Prokofiev's Fifth Symphony, nearly causing him to lose his balance, and thus the idea of a shuffle was born. Unique to Shuffle's performances is the manner in which the program is selected. The audience is invited to actively participate. You'll hear more about this later. In the selection of works to be performed by choosing from a menu of over 30 works derived from 15 different styles, with works ranging from solos and duos to trios, quartets, quintets, and sextets. Genres vary from classical and baroque and romantic to jazz, Latin, and Broadway. The result is a highly engaged audience and a high energy performance. I love this idea. I love it. Shuffle's members are exceptionally accomplished chamber musicians. They are graduates of schools such as Juilliard, New England Conservatory, Oberlin, Manhattan School of Music, and Bard College, and all have individually won numerous prizes and performed extensively as soloists and collaborative musicians throughout the world. The ensemble's debut CD was released in October of 2013, and in 2014, to celebrate its 5th anniversary, Shuffle introduced its first composition competition. Last year in 2016, Shuffle released its long-awaited interactive video project, which allows presenters and audiences to choose from their own musical adventure in the comfort of their own home. But this is better. The video includes 5 segments, each in a different musical style, and the viewer is invited to watch them in any particular order of their choice, and can be viewed on the media page on the Shuffle website. In 2016-17, Shuffle has toured extensively throughout Israel and performed coast to coast in the US. And for this season, Shuffle Concert is creating an exciting new project titled 1933. Did you guys do that last month?
No, we did it in Wickenburg, Arizona on January 28th.
In Wickenburg, Arizona. That's a great place.
It is.
It's more like that.
Yeah. 1933 is a unique concert experience dedicated to music composed and premiered during this pivotal year in human history. Scheduled to premiere in January at the Del E. Webb Center in Wickenburg, Arizona. 1933 featured Shuffle's interactive music program with a multimedia visual presentation of historic events, art, architecture of the period, and illuminated by an original lighting design. We are so fortunate to have them here with us today. I've asked them to talk a little bit about themselves, but first, please welcome Shuffle.
artistic director, pianist for Shuffle Concert. Let me introduce the members of the ensemble. On oboe, Hassan Anderson. On violin, Benjamin Speltz. Our cellist, Sophia Novak. Our soprano, we have Brian Finn. Our clarinetist, Goran Katz. So what we're going to do in the next hour, we're going to do half and half. We're going to do half an hour of performance so you guys experience a little bit of what the Shuffle Concert is all about, and then we're going to do Q&A with you, and then I know that we have one participant who's actually going to play a little bit for us. Hi, Rebecca. So let me explain quickly the rules. You all have menus. You get to pick any of the pieces. I recommend the ensemble numbers just because we have such a short time. I would say, stick to the ensemble numbers to get the experience of hearing all of us play. So really feel free to pick any of the pieces. We'll do Q&A later, and maybe try to pick from different styles. Let's keep the third rule. Once a category has been chosen from, we're going to close it for the remainder of the concert, okay? Here we go. First number is number 3. Who is number 3? Yes, gentleman in the front. What would you like?
I have this whole 12.
Number 12 is Sophisticated Lady.
We normally will explain like for 5 minutes about the piece, but since we have such a short time, we're just going to play it.
7, hey, you winner. Smoke gets in your eyes. Ooh.
So this is strictly not a shuffle. We're going from jazz to jazz, but great. I should say that both these beautiful arrangements were done for us by a wonderful jazz pianist, Dan Kaufman. So both ladies, Fisky Lady and Smokey.
I'm just wondering, are there any composers in the audience? Okay, just a really, really quick, interesting fact about this arrangement. You've heard about the 1933 project before, and when this was arranged, our friend thought that it would be cool if instead of having 32 beats, meaning 8 bars before 4, he would add 1 bar or 5/4, which would create 33. So if you felt like there was one extra beat every once in a while, that was his idea, connecting this to 33.
But we didn't need to tell you that, right?
Yeah.
Next number is 16. Do we have a 16 in the house?
Check your
Going
box in
once.
front.
Going twice.
Yeah. What would you like?
Cabaret.
Good choice.
It's okay if I take this out of the theme. Be patient. I'll just move it a little closer.
You know, for you students here, I know we said that we weren't going to talk much before the pieces, but actually a big part of what we do is that we interact with the audience. And I think for those of you who are thinking of going into a career in music, it's no longer just strictly playing. It's no longer just strictly showing up and performing a piece. So a lot of what we like to do is we interact with the audience, we tell jokes, we tell jokes about each other, we talk about the pieces. So I actually think it'd be really cool if Ari said like 1 or 2 sentences about this piece before we started.
Who here has seen Cabaret? I haven't seen it either, so for those of you who haven't seen it, you're in good company. So I looked this character up, and she is a mediocre cabaret singer. She's British, and she's living in Berlin, and she's just had the worst day humanly possible. She's fancy, but she's living a life in the underworld. What good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play. Life is a cabaret show. Come to the cabaret. The dog, the knitting, the book and the broom. Come hear the music play. Life is a cabaret show. Come to come taste the warmth, come hit back, come know your heart, start celebrating, run this way, your table's waiting. Start by admitting from grave to tomb, isn't that long a stay? Life is a cabaret charm. Come to the cabaret. I used to have a girlfriend known as Elsie, with whom I shared 4 sordid rooms in Chelsea. She wasn't what you'd call a blushing flower. As a matter of fact, she rented by the hour. The day she died, the neighbors came to snicker. Well, that's what comes of too much pills and liquor. But when I saw her laid out like a queen, she was the happiest corpse I'd ever seen. I think of Elsie to this very day. I remember how she turned to me and said, what good is sitting alone? Come here, music play. Life is a cabaret show. Come to the cabaret. Down the knitting, the book and the blue. Time for Number 22.
You got 22?
22.
That's me.
Yeah.
File number 19.
19. Seven deadly sins.
Ooh. Oh, this definitely needs some explanation. This is a very cool piece. If you ever have a chance, you should definitely see it. It's rare. It's by Kurt Weill. And it's a condemnation of the worst things about human nature and hypocrisy through this sort of mythological tale of these two sisters who may actually be the same person with a complicated personality. But you do see two people who look awfully alike, and their names are both Anna. And this is the introduction to the character. She and her sister Anna are both from Louisiana. And I'll be playing both of them, talking to each other. One of them is practical. That's the one who does most of the speaking, singing. And the other one is usually played by a dancer who looks just like her in the same outfit, who is more emotional. And the practical one bosses the emotional sister into doing a lot of really deadly stuff with a lot of very, very relatable logic. Like, we've all gotten ourselves into trouble with some logic, making ourselves think we're doing the right thing when we're actually doing it wrong. So anyway.
By the way, these sisters live in Louisiana, but they speak in German, so it's...
Shocking.
we walk in airports, sometimes on the way to the gate, you'll see her going, "Did I remember my folder, Alma?" "Yes, Alma." "That gate, Alma?" "Yes."
Okay, let's switch gears, questions and answers. You guys ask the questions, we give the answers. I'm going to preempt the first question because I know it's going to be how does the whole thing start beyond the incident of the elliptical machine.
More myth
There
than
are more, it's actually true, I wasn't in the elliptical machine and it did jump, but our PR person made a little bit more of it. Really. It is, but the truth of the story is that Moran and I played a concert in San Diego, and over dinner we had a discussion about what can we do to bring more people into classical music and how difficult it is to present classical music concerts, to get people to come to your classical music concerts. And I shared the idea with her and she loved it, and back into playing we started making plans to do a pilot experiment. And that was 8 years ago. Thank you.
And that was 8 years ago. Moran?
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
There's nothing to add? Yeah, that was it. So that's how the whole thing started.
Questions, please? Yeah.
How much of what you do is completely already arranged, or do you improvise on stage as well as some of the pieces?
I don't know exactly what the percentage breakdown would be. Maybe like,
30 to 70?
yeah, probably about 30% arrangements, most of whom are Elran and Moran's friends, wonderful arrangers, and then the rest, they are selections from standard rep, from the piano trios, or, obviously, I don't think there has been a composer besides the ones that we've commissioned to write for all 6 of these instruments. So that's why we have a lot of the other standard rep. We have stuff for clarinet and piano, violin and piano, oboe, et cetera, et cetera.
Wait, but you asked about improvisation. So
And Moran should answer the rest of that question.
Talking, 100%. We never know what's going to happen on stage, especially when we're in a good mood and the audience is in a good mood. But some of those friends of ours, the composers and arrangers, they know us extremely well, and it's always nice to have somebody who knows you because they know your abilities and your strengths and weaknesses, and they can go according to that. So when they know that one of us is comfortable doing this or that, whether it's scatting or improvising or drumming, which we had as well. Ariadne had to play, what instrument was that?
Oh, God.
The blocks.
Yeah, the wooden blocks.
Brendan also have a drum solo?
Yeah, Brendan
For a
had
little while, we had a
the snare.
with these horrifying egg shakers. None of us were able to play them the same way, so we had a shake-off between the 3 boys.
So, the pieces that you've chosen today did not have any improvisation, but we certainly have that in the menu.
Other questions? Yeah.
I have a question about your categories. Sometimes it's times, 1900 and 1950. Sometimes it's style and live. I've never heard of that before. So how did you come up with categories?
It's a very easy explanation. The way this works is there are pieces we want to play, and then we invent categories to fit those pieces. Don't tell me.
The idea is to group pieces that are similar so that people don't end up hearing the same kind of thing for an entire concert. We really do want to sort of draw people. A whole horde of different kinds of people come in to every concert, and we want them to be sort of exposed to things that they don't normally hear, whatever it is. My parents are big classical music snobs, and the person sitting next to them might only like musical theater, and I think it's good for my mom to hear some musical theater.
Yeah, is this a classical music school? Are there classical music students in the audience, per se? Raise your hand if you're a classical music student. None?
Should we find out?
It is a very eclectic school.
Okay. Are there jazz students here? Is there anybody in this room?
In the back. Okay, so does anybody here play an instrument? Except, I know you do. Okay.
So education.
String instruments. wind instruments. Yeah.
Cool. Anyways, any other questions?
I would say, back to the previous question, what at least the intention is to give each one of the instruments a fair chance at being highlighted with a solo. But I think it's fair to say we all really love playing the group numbers where sort of the sum of the part is much greater than each individual part.
Are you trying to say that you've never heard of the well-known style oboe crush? It's right between the Baroque and the classical. Yeah, this is just us really wanting more oboe in the concert, and so didn't know where to put it. Oboe crush.
But I think another point to touch on, just related to entrepreneurship and in music, which I think Hassan can talk a lot about over here, is that when you widen the kinds of music that you play, you have more opportunities to play. So if you're just a group that plays strictly Haydn quartets, then there's probably, I can only think of maybe 1 or 2 presenters in the world who want to just have Haydn quartets. Yeah, it's in Austria, where Haydn was quite lived. So that's something to think about. I mean, you guys can speak more to this, but certain presenters have probably maybe even asked for a certain kind of music, and we've adjusted the music on the menu for that purpose.
It's rare, but we have taken certain things off on occasion. But I think the point is that
We added Christmas tunes sometimes.
right. I mean, certainly when we go to Israel, there's a request for Israeli music, and we did a Christmas concert where we commissioned a couple of Christmas tunes and maybe Hanukkah.
We have a Disney category, which we love and brings us to tears, actually. So when we play family concerts, children concerts, we put that on.
Yeah, sorry.
What is the teacher in the term Baroque?
Yeah.
What is
The sound what is Baroque.
Well, seeing we have somebody here with a doctorate degree, you would think, I think this is a question for him.
If you think in mind that the Romantic period where, Schumann and Liszt and Brahms, and then we go to the classical period where Beethoven and Haydn and Schubert and Mozart, and then it's the period right before that. We all associate Bach with Baroque music, but really it's many other people like Gabrieli, Telemann, all the people that end with any at the end.
Can I just say something really fast? It lines up with the Baroque period in art, and it's really florid music where you get to improvise, and it's usually from the year 1600s until sometime in the middle of the 1700s. Yeah.
There you go. That was a crash course in Baroque music. Other questions? Yes, in the back.
How long on average does it normally take you to master these things?
That depends.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's really great to be here. I think it depends on maybe your instrument. I play the oboe. When I was in school, I would spend about 20 to 35 hours a week just making reeds. And so I would practice maybe an hour a day. So that was my main focus. And so nowadays, what I would say is that our instruments have very different upkeep levels. For example, I always think the violin kind of has the most upkeep because when Brendan is practicing every day, it goes through the roof. And then when I say, Brendan, you sound very good, he'll say, I haven't practiced, I skipped a day and I'm losing something. So I think it just depends. So I think that's a baseline. For me, when it comes to a piece, it's more about a mindset, right? The question is, how close to perfection do I want to get to, right? So if I'm playing a piece that I know that I really want to try to get 98% of my utmost potential, then that is usually for me over the course of a week working on that piece just itself for 2 hours. That's kind of what I would say. I think if I'm doing something where I'm playing a gig and I'm playing maybe an accompaniment role to someone who's doing the soloist, I'm trying to, get the basic notes, try to represent myself in a high professional level, but I'm not going to be spending 2 hours on that piece, maybe a half hour. I will say the most important thing that will translate to you all right now, how many of you take private lessons? Good. The one thing I would encourage you in regards to preparation of music is to move forward with the idea that your private lesson is a performance. So that when you walk into your private lesson, you are immediately thinking, I'm not actually playing this piece to get feedback from my teacher, I'm going in to perform this for my teacher at the highest level. And I can tell you, you will get so much back from your lessons because it will set your bar and standard for preparation at 90% of above. And so that's just one thing I would encourage you to take that approach, because if you're working from a 90% level, there are only a few things that your teacher probably will be able to even say to you, and you will have a tremendous better lesson experience overall.
I'll quickly add that it wasn't necessarily clear if this was about us learning our piece individually or once we arrive at a rehearsal. So a lot of times it's easy to learn our individual parts, but once we are together, you can imagine 6 pretty strong personalities and different opinions. That can take a very long time. Some of the pieces on our menu we've been playing for years, and still we'll rehearse them and come up with all kinds of new things and things we're unhappy with. And so sometimes it's a lifetime. I know that's not a great answer to think it's a lifetime to learn a piece, but it's just a different process when we get together.
Yeah,
So, I was
sorry.
just going to ask, what part of the country are you from? Or are you based?
Can we take like 2 minutes and talk about ourselves?
Yeah, I'll go quickly. First, born in LA, live in New York, studied in New York, and
I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, and now I live in New York City.
Maybe say a little bit about what it is that you do in your career right now.
Yeah, sure. So I'm in a place where I have spent the last 20 years of my life playing the oboe. And it has been so tremendously spiritually rewarding. I don't make any qualms by using that word. When I say spiritual, I mean it has kept my metaphorical or spiritual cup running over all these years. And as of now, I think Dean Steve would be very proud to hear this, but my future goals are to be a dean of a school of music. And I just want to take a second and highlight you, Steve, for bringing us here, because what it says is that, and I want to be you one day, is that great leadership, especially great visionary leadership like you have here, is able to expose students to things that are out of the box. And so I want to try to be the visionary leader that you have here, because there are many pathways into having a career in music, but when you have someone at the top who actually believes in these pathways, you actually have a richer educational experience.
I probably don't have an unusual story from these guys, but in New York, I studied in New York, got my master's degree, and since then I've been what's called freelancing, which means that I play with a lot of the professional orchestras in the city, and I do as much possible chamber music as I can, and my biggest passion is to put on great works of art in alternative venues. Aimed at a demographic in the sort of young adult, young professional age range, and oftentimes it involves things like warehouses and maybe a DJ set before and after. And so far it's been really great. The response has been great. So this is how my brain thinks outside of the box in New York.
Originally from Israel. I came to the States when I was 19 and I did 3 degrees at Juilliard. I currently teach. I'm an assistant professor at SUNY Fredonia up by Buffalo. I have a student of 17 students. I coach 3 chamber music groups. I sit on committees. I do a lot of extra work. I run a piano competition. I play with these guys. And if I have some time, I get to read.
So I was originally born in Pennsylvania, but I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm a New Jersey girl. I went to school in New York. I lived in New York. In addition to playing with these wonderful musicians here, I'm also what you would call a freelancer, much like Brendan, and I play with many of the professional groups in the tri-state area, so New Jersey and New York. I commute back and forth pretty often. I'm a private music teacher, so I have right now a studio of about 17 young cellists, which really, actually it keeps inspiring me to be a musician because, we talk about this idea of, how to bring more people into classical music, and then that's kind of where it starts. You need to be an advocate advocate for the youngest people, and so I teach in New Jersey and I also teach in New York City, and what's been really eye-opening for me is the one organization I teach for in New York, demographically, it's a lot of young kids who are coming from, more, they're coming from like immigrant families, and they're coming from different parts of the world, and so you meet with all these different cultures, and they're coming from completely different, even musical tastes. And so for me to kind of get to explore what they have and to share with them and bring my excitement for what I do, and that's really, I feel like, what we need is that kind of in your formative years, like being exposed to it and really just learning to love all the different genres of music and what music has to offer.
I'm from Venice Beach, California, and I live in New York now. And I don't have anything extremely uplifting to say, except that I'm freelancing as a singer. That's what outside of shuffle, I'm freelancing as a singer, but it's totally different, I think, than as an instrumentalist. It's just a different world. So I feel like I'm having maybe last year and this year, maybe the best 2 years of my entire life so far. I feel like I'm traveling all over the place and singing incredible music from so many different centuries, including a lot of music that's been written recently, and operas and oratorios and like film scores, and I'm just having such a wonderful year. So,
Very happy to hear that, Ari. I too am from Israel originally and moved to New York City in 2002. And after school, I did a very interesting fellowship that Carnegie Hall started a few years ago that sends young musicians to public schools. And basically a lot of discussion also among the fellows with different speakers about what we're speaking right now, about the 21st century musician and all the different things that you need to have in your pocket in order, it's just not what it used to be, in order to truly make it and have as many things to offer as possible wherever you go. And now I teach at a college and at a conservatory pre-college, and I have private students. I'm also a recorder player. You didn't pick the one piece today that has me play the recorder, but I have it right here on the floor. So I have a few recorder students as well. It's a big love of mine. And as a freelancer, I get to do a lot of different styles on the clarinet, which is why I chose that instrument. So I'm a big lover of klezmer. If you're familiar with that style, the music of the Eastern European Jews originally, but now it's super popular everywhere, and everybody, in fact, it's probably more popular in Germany than Israel even. And I love jazz and improvising, and I enjoy composing, although I don't have as much time to do that. And this group is sort of an example of us doing everything. It's just such an amazing opportunity without even having to run around, which we do also, but just kind of like when you're buying shampoo and conditioner 2-in-1, but this is like a million in one. I mean, we go on stage and we get to either play different instruments or do different styles, or just so rare. People always feel like they have to choose one thing and stick to it. And while that can have its benefits and you can get better at it, I know I'm never going to be bored here. Ever. Every time we're on stage, it's just such a party. And if you're free tomorrow night, we're playing in Fort Collins.
So please come.
I just want to say a quick thing about playing in a group as opposed to doing other things. I spend a lot of time traveling around and doing one-off performances or doing like an opera where there's several performances. But the great thing about playing in a group is that you rehearse something a lot, and you have a deep stake in it, not just a personal stake, but a group stake in it. and you grow a musical relationship with other people, and you perform a thing many, many times. You don't just give it one performance, but like we've performed some pieces on our program maybe like 400 times, and that is unbelievable because it takes your concept of what mediocrity, your own mediocrity is, or your own best is, to another level, and then you're less comfortable with your old level of mediocrity or getting by. Like you don't want to do that anymore. So it brings up your level of playing, I think, everywhere else. I've seen that very much in myself.
We're very hard on each other.
Well, also we have a working relationship where Hassan can say to me, you know, that F you're singing is really low. It's almost an E. and then I can be like, that's true. And then just sing it better. And there's no one else who will tell me to my face anything about my condition. In the world, nobody. I mean, except in this room.
I just wanted to just, this idea of 21st century musician, I just wanted to, for the students to really give you something to think about. I think that for so long we've had this pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid was a job, in the middle was a career, and at the bottom was artistry. And one thing I've been trying to advocate for is that in the 21st century, it's super important that you turn that pyramid upside down. At the top should be artistry, and what does that mean? That really asks the question and makes you investigate this question of why am I here? Why am I doing this? And artistry helps you really think about and develop a sense of what is the greatest thing that you can become. In the middle, there is the career. And what does that mean? For the practical sense, it means a career in music. And that should make you excited because it means that there are many careers in music. There is anything from being a performer to an artistic director to being a school administrator, doing music therapy, to doing church music. And at the bottom is a job or a position. The reason I say I put that at the bottom is because we want to be able to think more broader than just a title. It's great to have a job and we want to have a position, but in having that position, having that job, you should always be asking yourself, what is my joy? What is it, that one thing that I love to do? Because what will often happen is sometimes you end up in a great job or position that is revered in the field, but it doesn't fill your tank. We saw this very recently. The highest paid oboe player in the country, the principal oboe player of the LA Phil, she just left. She said, I want to be a doctor now. She was making about $320,000. She recognized in herself, I've had this job, it's been very good, I've made a lot of money, but there is a calling now in my life for something that is beyond. Or sometimes what happens is that if you don't think about this idea of artistry, you will get your exact job and you'll show up and you'll go, is this it? Is this all? And so what I'm trying to get you to do is to think, this idea of passion versus purpose, and I'll wrap up. And what that means is that if I go over to that desk, it can function as a chair. It will hold my weight, but that desk was not made to be a chair. It can be a chair under duress. So when you think about passion versus purpose, I want you to think, what was I made to be? Don't move through life doing something that everyone else wants you to do or wants you to be. So really think of your passion versus your purpose. Passion says, I'm good at something. Purpose says, why am I here? And I promise you, if you ask that question, every day that you wake up, you will have a life that's full of all the happiness and joy that you really want it to be. But be very careful that you don't get stuck in that, what am I good at? Because all of you, every person in this room is good at a lot of different things. But at some point in your life, you must choose what that thing is that you want to pursue. And once you do it, you must pursue with all the fervor and energy that you have.
One of my favorite inspirational speakers has Anyways, do we have any more questions? I think we have time for maybe one or two more.
Well, I think we need to reserve some time for the masterclass. Yeah.
Well, we do have...
The Dean speaker?
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple of quick comments. Our motto here at school is passionately pursuing excellence. And that's really our desire. is talking about passion sounds absolutely. It's got to be passion driven. Also, just by way of observation, you all individually are shy. Your careers are, you move through so many different genres and things that you do to have a career, whether it's teaching or performing or being in this group. You are individually that. And I think that is the 21st century musician. And that is what I hope that our students glean from you today and understand. I have a friend that has said that creative people find creative ways to be employed. And I think that especially in the 21st century, that's what has to happen for musicians. They have to have so many things that they're capable of doing, but it's all under the foundation or over the foundation of like excellence and passion and practice and perseverance and all those things. So you all have hit out the park for me today. So thank you for what you've said and what you've done. My really quick question is, from the inception of the group until your first performance, how long did it take you to make this happen? And secondly, why did you choose this instrumentation?
From the inception to the actual concert, it was about 3 months. The reason for this instrumentation is really friendship. So, Lenore Katz, Moran's sister, is a phenomenal cellist, and she was with us at that concert, so she was the first cellist of the group. My neighbor and dear friend is an oboist, also from Israel. My best friend is a violinist, and we knew we needed a singer. So yeah, it was actually very fast. The one thing that I want to add to what you said, and we didn't really elaborate on it, but Brandon puts together these incredible concerts in crazy venues like bars and dance clubs, and then they end up playing Steve Reich's different trains. Ari does projects where she commissions 20 different composers to write dreams and nightmares for her. I think this is where we're heading with these careers. If you have a passion, if you have an idea, and you're the leader, you can make it happen. Today, there's so many platforms and so many people who are interested in contributing to your passion project. So just to restate what was already said, take that idea and run with it. And 8 years later, this is where we're at.
And I think it's important to publicly acknowledge Eliron here. Eliron's entrepreneurship has singly helped me have the financial stability. Eliron has employed 5 other people. He is an entrepreneur, but at the end of the day, he helps us put food on the table. And so, thank you. I don't think I've ever said thank you. You have helped me pay my bills. You have helped me buy these shoes. And so the other part is that music people are business people. And I think it's so good, if just very briefly, you could talk about the business aspect, Moran too, about the business aspect with your artistry that helped us be so successful.
We don't have enough time. In my wildest dreams, I never imagined spending time in front of the computer doing spreadsheets, business plans, putting together boards, writing bylaws. It was never on my agenda. And I'm very grateful that I had to learn that stuff. I think it was an incredible learning curve for me. I think that you guys should spend time studying all of that stuff because it's a valuable life skill to have. And it has ended up to be 70% of the time business, 30% of the time playing and having fun. So it is a crazy ratio, but the result is that you get to play concerts and get to do what you enjoy doing. So it is worth it in that respect.
I was just thinking, it might sound like what we're describing now is something that you start doing once you graduate and you're in the real world, but actually the time to do it is while you're in school. So if people come and ask you to do something, I always said yes. Didn't matter if it was for free, if I knew this person was my friend, if I knew anything about what they were offering, I always said yes. I just was open to any opportunity that came. I wanted to play anywhere and with everyone. And by now, I live in a place where people are familiar with me, and I have a lot of people I can approach. And if somebody asks me, what have you done? I have a long list of things to tell them. So it starts right now. And if your friends are not coming to ask you for things, then you should go and ask them things. And you can come up with the craziest things things ever. You don't have to feel like it needs to be something that makes sense. You can, if you have a friend who's an actor or a dancer or a painter or a DJ or like anything you'd ever think, oh, I wonder what would happen if. So just go for it and check what would happen. And even if you don't have a concert hall and you know people coming and paying tickets, even if it's just in your living room for a couple of friends, it just doesn't
Social
matter.
media, people. It's all in social media. It's all on YouTube. You start your own channel and you start creating content that you believe in, and there's an audience. Somebody out there is interested in what you have to say and in your passion. So take that one as well. Rebecca, you want to play?
Where are you going to be in Fort Collins? The Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center in Fort Collins. The Lincoln Center.
Let's make a little pathway for her.
I guess the question is, I have a couple of things that I brought up. Is there something that I've done for a very long time that would be great to add other opinions on, or something that I'm sort of more working on now?
What do you want?
I'm fine with either. I love both of them.
I would go with what you're familiar with.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop there. Okay?
Yeah. I might just do the first section of it.
What do you think?
So the piece that I'm going to play is by a artist named Alphonse Hasselmans, and it is called Chanson de Mai, which means Song of May. Thanks, I do too.
You're not really take a part along with us.
Go to the mic.
Can I start?
Yeah.
I just
Okay, I'll just speak from here, I think. Really nice job, by the way. Really beautiful. I noticed in the second part of that part, I think when things maybe started to get difficult, you rushed a little bit.
That's actually stylistically what the music calls for, is to go faster in the middle section.
Okay,
So
okay.
That was actually purposeful.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe if that's the case, sell it to us a little bit more. And then also, as a fellow string player, kind of, I understand the difficulties of using fingers on strings. I think when you're doing some of the more difficult stuff, think of them as musical expressions and not as technical goals. And I think that concept was really important for me. So if you're really trying to do something difficult, you're trying to make a big leap, or you're trying to make a big chord work, think of them, use your arms and your hands expressively to do it. Not just, you're gonna do this and do that, you know what I mean? It's not mechanic. I mean, a technique at the end of the day is just to serve the music. So, do you want to just try a little bit of that second part again and think that way?
Just in the middle part.
Yeah.
I might have to start from the beginning again, sorry.
I just want to say it was beautiful the first time that you played it, but what made it more successful for me, in my opinion, is that you used the bass line to really help with the harmony changes, and you gave so much more foundation to your sound. And from exactly what Brendan was saying is that because you were using more of just the phrasing instead of thinking, oh, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, how many notes there are in there. You were thinking in those longer phrases and more in just expression, as opposed to, here I have all these notes that I have to play, and here's my foot going. I love that, that you have all these pedals and everything. So, but yeah, beautiful.
I had two things. First of all, well done. I think if it's one thing I've learned from my duos with Eliran is that he feels harmonic changes even stronger than I do. And so sometimes when I'm playing in something, I usually base my phrasing off the harmonies, but even sometimes he snuffs me out, and he challenges me to go deeper. And so I feel like with the harmonic changes, if you could move through those, but also either create time on either side of the harmonic changes, or really move into them with the volume that shows something that really brings that extra musical feature. So I think you should do that. And also, since you're so good, we got to do the advanced course. I think you need a little bit more oboe elbow with this piece. And I'm going to explain. Of course, my reed is dry now, but I'm gonna play two notes, and I want you to tell me which one is louder, the first one or the second one. Which one is louder? Two. Okay, one more time. First one. Second one.
The second one looks louder.
Exactly. They're both the same volume, but the second one looks loud, right? So this sounds ridiculous, but music is visual, right? And so for most of your performance, you didn't look up at us, and I'm not going to blame you because it's probably a geography problem, right? But if you can make some connection with the listener, where they either see your eyes or there's a certain smile or some kind of facial expression, It's some kind of extra item. So do this a little bit again, and I'm not going to make you be corny and small with us.
But I can.
That's the spirit.
But do something visual that gives us a cue that you've actually moved past the technical, and you're actually now free and open and enjoying yourself.
Hassan said, I think the most important thing for us, we start again. We all start very nervous, right? We go on stage and it's all about, oh my God, will the pedal go down? And I think it's imperative that we switch gears, that you close your eyes for a second and you go, it's not about me, it's not about the harp, it's about the composer and the music. And what is it I'm trying to express? So if this is a nymph having a beautiful day in the meadow or whatever, you go and you get in touch with that image, with that spirit, and then you start playing. We need a second. Your audience needs a second. Oh, we see you, you're beautiful, the harp, oh my God, it's a harp, and you start playing, we're not ready. So just like 5 seconds, breathe, see what it is you want to do, and then
On the same topic, this is something big that I've learned from kind of trying to figure out what the difference is between good musicians or beautiful musicians and then, like, for example, A-lister opera singers. This is the best example. Is that we're trying to breathe. Like anybody who plays a string instrument or piano or harp is trying to breathe when they play, so that you have this feeling that it's a little bit like singing. So you have a phrase, you take a breath. You have another phrase, you take a breath. And what I see in like A-lister opera singers is that they have all the time in the world. They know that in between things, they have all the time in the world. And it actually makes what they say musically or verbally so much more clear and more powerful. Like a good public speaker takes a lot of time before they say the most important thing. And so, and I might think that I've taken a huge amount of time, and I watch like Renee Fleming do something, and she takes like 5 seconds in between one thing and another thing, and it works. It's so musical. And I think that I took all the time in the world, and it was actually like straight in time. So I think in between the first sentence, da 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 da, and then the next one, right? And then the third one is da 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 da. You can take more time. And I noticed that between the first and the third time that you played this, you took immense amounts more time. Obviously, it was like much less metronomic. And I think that is like the hugest, for me, that's been like a huge development for me to be like, actually, it's much, much better when I am making conscious decisions rather than, playing the music,
I just want to add a quick something, and then you said you had another piece that you wanted to play for us?
Sure.
Or how are we on time?
We're way over.
Oh, okay. I just quick something, and I want to share with you. So one of my students, her mother, her dad used to play with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and he had this great analogy to we as performers, like when we are performing on stage, and what Ari was saying about taking more time. We have all the time in the world, or really going for elaborate, phrasing and dynamics and things like that. And sometimes we feel like it's such a gross exaggeration of what we're doing. And this musician of the Philadelphia Orchestra, he likened it to, it's like an actor on stage when they have the stage makeup on. If you see them up close, it's like, oh my goodness, this is too much. But that's what we need from the stage, because back here, if you don't have that makeup on, we're not going to hear the definition, or not going to see the definition. Same thing with articulation and making sure that you're not speaking too quickly. Same thing with music, and I share this with my students a lot. They think they might be doing way too many dynamic, like it's too big of a forte, or it's too little of a piano, or it's just too much ritardando. Actually, until I tell you it's too much, go overboard. I'm always shocked. Like recently I've been watching myself or hearing myself play, like from different recordings and whatnot, and I think I'm doing so much rubato. I think I'm doing like a lot of vibrato. I feel like I'm doing so much with the dynamics, and I listen to myself and I think, wow, it looks like I'm not working at all, So even though it might feel like you're doing too much, it's do more. Always do more. You have more time. Yeah. Yeah.